Imagine it's May 21st, 1992. An air traffic controller in Caracas, Venezuela is staring at his radar, completely baffled. A plane just appeared out of thin air. It's a Douglas DC-4, an old model you haven't seen in commercial skies for decades. A voice crackles over the radio, calm but obviously confused. He says he's the pilot of Pan Am Flight 914, which was supposed to land in Miami on July 2nd, 1955. But then, it wasn't. The plane just vanished. One moment, it was a blip on the radar screen, and the next, it was gone. There was no distress call, no bad weather warnings, no clue what went wrong. Search and rescue teams scrambled, looking for any sign of wreckage in the ocean, but they came up with absolutely nothing. Days turned into weeks. With no answers, Pan Am Flight 914 was declared lost, and everyone on board was presumed dead. For decades, that was the tragic end of the story. That is, until 37 years later, when that same plane supposedly dropped out of the clouds over Venezuela. The air traffic controller, a man named Juan de la Corte, carefully asked the pilot for his details. When the pilot said he was headed for Miami and thought the date was July 2nd, 1955, you could have cut the tension in the control tower with a knife. Juan told the pilot it was actually 1992. According to the story, you could hear the pilot start to panic over the radio. Through the windows, passengers could be seen with their faces pressed against the glass, looking just as confused. Ground crews were sent out to guide the plane in. But before they could get close, the story takes another wild turn. The pilot yelled over the radio, "We're leaving now!" He gunned the engine, sped back down the runway, and took off into the sky, disappearing for a second time. The only thing left behind on the tarmac was a small 1955 pocket calendar, apparently dropped from the aircraft. This is where the story takes its most important turn. The legend of Flight 914 is so compelling because it's filled with specific dates, names, and dramatic details. It just feels so real. But what if the real mystery isn't about where the plane was for 37 years, but where the story itself came from? As it turns out, the truth isn't up in the clouds, it was on a newsstand. The entire legend of Pan Am Flight 914 started in the pages of the A tabloid newspaper, famous for printing shocking and completely made-up stories. It was first published in 1985 as a piece of pure fiction, written just to entertain and grab attention. The tabloid even reprinted the story a couple of times in the 90s, changing the dates a little to keep the myth going. That's why you'll see some versions of the story mention a 30-year gap, and others a 37-year one. Oh, and that photo of the mystery plane they used in the article? Well, it was just a stock photo of a completely different plane from a different airline. When you start looking for any official proof, the story just completely falls apart. There are no Pan Am records of a Flight 914 ever going missing. You won't find any Civil Aeronautics Board accident reports from 1955 that match this incident. There is zero credible evidence that the flight, its disappearance, or its reappearance ever actually happened. It's a work of fiction, through and through. The story has all the classic signs of a great urban legend. It taps into our fears, it tells a fascinating story, and it feels just believable enough to make you wonder. The tale of Flight 914 plays on our fascination with the unknown, with time travel and the mysteries the sky might hold. Of course, when the internet came along, the story found a whole new audience spreading across forums and social media, with every share adding a new, unproven detail to make it even more dramatic. So did a passenger plane really fly through a time warp? The answer is a clear and simple no. The story of Pan Am Flight 914 is just a powerful example of how a good piece of fiction can spread and become a widely believed legend. It was never a real flight, just a story expertly crafted by a tabloid that loved to blur the line between news and entertainment. The legend lives on, not because of any evidence, but because it tells a story we just can't resist. What do you think it is that makes these kinds of stories go viral even long after they've been proven to be fake? Let us know what you think in the comments.